Now we're going to observe a new experiment. I've got here two pieces of clay of equal mass. To show that they have an equal mass, I'm going to use this balance. So the cups are on the same level. What happens if I change the shape of one of them? Let's take this yellow one. I'm gonna change it into a circular shape. Will the mass change? Let's see. The cups are still on the same level, so they have the same mass as well. Now, what happens if I divided it into two parts? This is the first part and the second one. Will the mass change? Also, the mass stayed the same. So what do we notice? We notice that two different sized pieces of clay can have the same mass. Okay? Now, our new lesson today is about matter changes. This is lesson 1 from chapter 10. We're going to cover pages 326 till 329. We actually have two types of changes. The first one is physical. The second one is chemical. What are physical changes? Matter can change in different ways. You can change the size or shape of matter. This is called a physical change. When you cut, bend, fold, or tear matter, you cause a physical change. You can change the shape or size of paper by cutting or folding it. It is still paper. So when I changed the shape of this clay into a circle, into a ball, did it change its mass? Of course not. Also here, I have this paper. It's a normal one. And I took the same size of the paper, of another paper, I folded it into a rocket. Did it change its mass? Of course not. I just only changed the shape of the paper. Okay? So folding and writing on paper are physical changes. When you only change the shape of matter, its mass stays the same, just like here in the balance. It has the same level, so both papers have the same mass. Let's move to page 327. Sometimes the temperature of matter changes. On a cold day, water can change to ice. This is a physical change. Here the water has changed into ice. Wetting and drying can be physical changes too. Wet mud looks and feels different from dry mud. Here we have two pictures. In the first one, we see the mud is wet. The second one, we see the mud is dry. What's the difference between a wet and a dry mud? The color of dry mud is different from the color of wet mud. Mud feels squishy when it is wet and hard when it is dry. I get here two types of mud. The first one is, of course, it's dry because it's hard. Yes? The other type, it's wet because it feels squishy. Yes? Okay. Now let's move to page 328 and talk about the chemical changes. Sometimes the properties of matter can change. This is called a chemical change. When matter goes through a chemical change, it is not easy to change it back. Here the paper, when I fold it like this way, and in the other way, can I change it back? Of course, yes. I can easily get it back to its normal shape. So this is a physical change. But a chemical change, when it happens, I cannot change it back to its original state. It becomes a new kind of matter with different properties. When you burn a paper, you cannot change it back. Seeing light and feeling heat are clues that a chemical change may be happening. I've got here a paper. I already burnt it. Can I get back the burnt part? Of course not. It turned into ashes. So this is a chemical change here. This is a chemical change. It happened by heat. Okay, so I cannot bring it back to this shape, a complete paper. Okay. Now, all matter does not change in the same way. Of course, they matter, they change differently. Here in this table, we see the first one, we have this matchstick before and after being exposed to heat. So this is the original state of a matchstick, and this is after it got exposed to heat. Heat causes the matchstick to burn. The properties of the matchstick have changed. So can I change this matchstick to where it was? Of course not. And in the other picture, we see a metal. Here, it's a nail in the normal state, and this is a nail after being exposed to water or air. So water and air can cause metal to rust. This is a rusty one. Rusting is a chemical change that happens slowly by time. I've got here two nails. This is a normal one, an original one. And this nail has been exposed to water and air for a long time. So this is rust. This is a rusty nail. It is caused by water or air. Okay? Here, a plastic toy, anything plastic, when it's exposed to water and air, it doesn't change its properties. It stays the same. So water and air do not change the properties of a plastic. Okay? Now on page 329, we see here are normal eggs. They are raw. And when you wake up in the morning and you crave for a fried egg, it turns into this when it gets exposed to heat. It turns into this. You start smelling even the new egg smell. Heat causes the egg to go through a chemical change you can see and smell. Okay?